You didn't know you were coming here for hypertension today, right? I'm actually going to be talking about our Hope Squad, which you're going to find out a little bit more about. It's just out of curiosity, who is familiar already with Hope Squad? So I have a few of you, great, that are already familiar with Hope Squad. So I want to just give a little bit more history about what is it? What is it if you've never even heard of it? Let's hope it was working. It might not work now. Okay, I might have to wing it until he gets back. Okay, well, I'll start off by sharing until he gets back. So Hope Squad was something when I used to be a school social worker for Provo School District many moons ago. It was clear back in the early 2000s. And around about 2002, my boss at the time, who was over student services, his name is Greg Hudnall, he organized what was called a Hope Task Force, because what we were finding is that there were a lot of suicides that were happening in the school district, and we wanted to decrease the amount of suicides that we were having. So he put this community Hope Task Force together and had like the police there, the local mental health agency, the school district, several people of the community came together to organize this task force to look at how we could reduce the number of especially youth suicides. And so as we met together, we took a full year, and he put together and organized particularly a school system and a school program, because at the time there were 2 suicide prevention school programs that were in the United States. One was in Washington and one was in Nebraska. And there wasn't a whole lot that was there with that suicide prevention program. So my job was to sit with a few other, I sat with some school counselors and a couple other school social workers, and for a year we studied all the programs that were there and available, and we put together, tried to organize and put together a program, and it pretty much fell upon me at the time, and so I did a lot of the research and study on those 2 programs and put together a binder, which I still ironically still have. It's pretty archaic, but it was what we could do at the time. Put together a binder of a school program and went into the school and started. At the time, I was assigned to Timpview High School, which is clear on the east side of Provo, and started with the school counselor. And what we did is we nominated kids. We went to the English classes at the time, we did all 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And what we did is we went into the classrooms and introduced it. It wasn't Hope Squad. We didn't have a name. We just said, we're starting this program. It's a suicide peer prevention program in the school. And asked the students if they could nominate at least 3 other students that they would go to if they were struggling or having a hard time, that they would be most likely to actually share or go to if they were having a struggle. It couldn't be anyone that was like a bully or anything like that. So as they started nominating and these nominations started coming in to the school, then we compiled them, put them together, and it's interesting how certain names would kind of rise to the surface. Then we invited those students to be a part of our program. So at the time, there was only I think we had about 15 students when we first started out. And we brought them together. We had a lunch meeting. We supplied donuts and all the fun, good things, right? And started sharing with them the program. And I remember in those first few meetings, we had a whiteboard, and I was like, okay, one of the first things we need to do is come up with a name. So what's a name? And so we started brainstorming and had this huge whiteboard of all these different names. And as we were brainstorming and we took a vote, we decided and fell upon the name Hope Squad, because we wanted to bring hope, be a squad that brought hope to the school. And that's how the birth of Hope Squad came about. And so we started meeting, and in the beginning, we actually started in January, so we were mid-year through the school year, and we decided we wanted to run a week of suicide prevention, and so we decided to call it Hope Week. And with Hope Week, we wanted to bring awareness to suicide prevention. So I went and got these wristbands, and we planned activities for every single day, and it did not fly very well. I will just tell you that. A lot of the high school kids thought it was a joke. They thought it wasn't very serious. They would tease about it, but as we kept pursuing and we kept going and bringing those activities, the following year when we started, we actually added a lot more students. We went to 30, and then the next year we went to 40 students that we had, and each year it caught on more and more powerfully, where people started really catching and seeing the vision. We also started we had a group of students that were more like the higher risk students, the social skills, and we paired them with our Hope Squad students, and we would go to the ropes course down by Utah Lake, and we would do this skills class all day long, and it was amazing to see these kids light up and feel like they had friends and they had people who cared about them. And that's kind of how the birth of Hope Squad began. So why a Hope Squad? I mentioned that we were having a high suicide rate, so I wanted to share. I'm going to skip this video, but I wanted to, this is kind of when we came together as a task force, what we were looking at. We wanted to come together with a common language, so looking at the warning signs of suicide, who is at risk, and then an understanding of how then do we intervene when we find that there are people that are at risk. And then the common knowledge is then where do we go? What do we do? And so that is what we include in suicide prevention. You'll know there's something that the students fill out in schools, and they start in 6th grade and they hit these main grades, 6th, 8th, usually I think it's 12th grade. And so they started doing this outreach program and asked them questions. This graph shows who they would turn to if they were struggling and if they were having a hard time. And you can see over on the far left side, if they felt this way but didn't talk to somebody about it. You can see the numbers there. Most of them will talk to a parent. Luckily, we see the higher numbers, especially with your younger grades. They will go and talk to a parent. Once they start moving into the older grades, so if you see the red and the blue, they're more likely to talk to a peer. And that's what we started seeing as we were doing these studies and these graphs and putting them in the school, is who are they more likely to talk to. There's others, of course, teachers, doctors, school counselor, therapists, clergy, other adults that they talk to, but we found most often it's typically a friend or a peer that kept showing up, as well as the parents. But you can see that declined, and it's higher on those older grades going to peers. That's why we wanted to find some type of a program that we could bring into the school system. So the birth of Hope Squad, right? I want to show this quick video. Hopefully I've got sound that'll come here in a minute.
Suicide is the third leading cause of death among youth between ages 10
It wouldn't be a
to
presentation
19 years
without
old.
technology glitches, right?
4,600 youth are lost to suicide each year. However, most suicides are preventable. Youth who are contemplating suicide frequently give warning signs of their distress. 7 out of 10 will tell a friend or give a warning sign that they are struggling, but many of their friends do not tell an adult. A Hope Squad is a group of students nominated by their peers as good listeners and caring fellow students. They work closely with the local mental health agency. Hope Squad students are taught by the school counselor and advisors on how to recognize suicide warning signs in their peers and provide support. Hope Squad members are trained on how to talk to a fellow struggling student. If the peer needs help, they listen and then try to convince them to go see an adult in the school. If that does not work, they inform a school counselor about their concerns about their peers, so the advisors can contact the student and the parents for additional help and support. Hope Squad members also bring suicide prevention awareness to the entire school by holding an annual Hope Week, where fellow peers are given information about suicide prevention. For more information, please visit www.hopesquad.com.
Okay, so that's just a basic introduction to the Hope Squad. Hold on. It's not moving. Sorry. Perfect. Okay. So as I said, I was a school social worker. At the time, I was over 9 different schools. One was a high school, an elementary. I had 3 elementaries, a junior high, and then a couple other specialty schools. You can see clear back in 1999, as school social workers, there were about 6 to 8 of us, and we started keeping track of statistics of all of the work that we did. And so you can see in the beginning, like for example, 1999, you can see that there was 75 attempts, there were no hospitalizations, there were actually 2 completed suicides. And each year it would grow. So we started in 2003 was when I was a part of this Hope Task Force, where I sat to come up with a school program, and we started it that early year in 2004. So you can see between 2003 and 4, the attempts and threats, 53, and then 2004, 134. Can you see why we were saying, okay, we've got to do something. There's got to be something that we can do. And you can see the hospitalizations, and then we were still having completions almost every year. And that was one too many more than we wanted. In fact, there was a time when I remember a 4th grader hung himself in a tree. That was really devastating in our district. You can see here as you move through the other years, 2005 through 2013, look at the completions since we started implementing the Hope Squad program into the schools. Since then, we've actually had 0 suicides that have happened. It goes on from 2013. We're proud to say that ever since then, we've had 0 completions that have happened. And we're finding that with Hope Squad, at the beginning, it was just there in Provo, and then now it's branched out, and we have them all over the state of Utah, and now we're all over different places in the United States. We're even going out into Ethiopia, has grasped it. We've got some in Canada. We've got some in Mexico. We've even got some over in Africa, in different areas in Africa. It's starting to branch out as people are wanting and needing different programs to help with their students. There's nothing worse than going and sitting in with a parent. I had, unfortunately, the opportunity, at least twice, to go and sit with a parent who had just lost their son or their daughter to suicide. There's nothing worse than that feeling. I'll never forget the time, the one in 2004 was at Timpview, and it was a baseball player. And I ended up being the school social worker that went over to sit with the mom as she was processing and contemplating, because her son had been expelled for something that he had done. He was a pretty popular kid, felt a lot of shame and guilt, went downstairs and shot himself. And there's nothing worse than having that experience. So it definitely was something that we wanted to change. We wanted to turn around. We found that students, as peers usually tell peers, those peers don't know what the suicide warning signs are. So the goal was to get into the schools and start training these peers to just at least recognize what those warning signs were so that they could understand and be educated in how to help. They're not counselors, and they're not there to be the ones that solve the problem. They're just the eyes and the ears of the school. So if they see something, they're worried, they're concerned, they can report it to their advisors or the school counselor, whoever it is that they need to, a trusted adult is what we teach, that they can go and report it to. And there's been hundreds and hundreds of lives saved because of it.
Hope, it's like having assurance. It's something you can count on. It's something that even when you're in a dark place, you can look forward to.
And Hope Squad's duty is to help other people get that feeling in their heart.
It's just heartbreaking. It brings so much sorrow and concern and even guilt. What could I have done? What should I have done to help?
When students attempt, they most often will confide in a peer about that. They'll tell a peer that they're thinking about it, but those peers that they tell would rarely ever let an adult know. They would keep it a secret because they felt like they were keeping confidence with their friend.
Kids don't want to talk to adults. Some of them are embarrassed, but they will see a peer as someone that would listen to them.
We wanted to do something proactive, and so we found Greg Hudnall and Hope Squad. It works. It's a program that works.
When we started our organization, we created a community crisis team, all volunteers. We met every month, and the one piece that we were missing was the peer-to-peer program. So we went into Timpview High School, went in and asked every student, 2,100 kids, if you were struggling emotionally and needed someone to talk to, list the names of 3 of your friends. When we finally got through it, it was so fascinating because the same 40 names rose to the top.
A lot of kids say, I really want to apply for Hope Squad. But the whole success of Hope Squad is based on the fact that these are students that everybody trusts and will go to in a crisis. So we've kind of held a hard line, and we run the program just like that.
I'm on Hope Squad because students at the school picked me as an easy person to talk to.
I care about other people. I care about their feelings. I don't know, maybe I'm pretty easy to talk to, so I'm a person that they might have picked.
Prior to having Hope Squads, and I've heard kids say this, is they felt like they needed to be the counselor. I'm their friend, we can't let the adult world know about this. It's just a burden. And so the Hope Squad now, it's kind of taken that stress off of them, knowing I'm not a professional counselor, but my friend needs a professional counselor, so I'm going to make sure they get that.
And not only that, these kids are more aware of the signs. They see these kids day in and day out, so if they see someone that's withdrawing, not doing the things that they normally do, they recognize the signs far better than an adult that doesn't have that daily contact with them.
Kids constantly were bringing me in names, and we're getting those kids help, and it went noticed by one of our Hope Squad members.
They didn't really come up to me. I just kind of noticed how they were acting was different than usual. They were wearing different things. They were saying different things than they used to. And I don't know, I just thought it was kind of weird, so I reported it, and it turned out to be something. So
We've had kids who aren't even friends, but they see someone writing on a notebook something about nobody cares about me, nobody wants me here. So they come and say, oh, I saw so-and-so. I don't know if it's important. They say that so often. I don't know if it's important, but here it is. Mm-hmm. And we say, yes, it is important. Any little detail you have is important.
I can see the difference that it's made in a lot of students' lives. A lot of kids have gotten help that I would not have been able to find. I wouldn't have known.
If anything, it's opened up the lines of communication, because when we know what's going on, we get a hold of parents real quick, and they know that we're going to help as best we can.
A lot of them are so good at masking that they're the happy-go-lucky, you never guess they had a problem type student, but one of their friends know. And when you call them down, then it all comes out. A student not too long ago, I said, you know, are you thinking about it? She goes, mm-hmm. I go, do you have a plan? She goes, oh yeah. Oh yeah. I go, what's your timeline? And it was that day. She goes, before 5. My mom gets home at 5, so it'd have to be before 5. I'm going, okay, we got to get you some help. And we did. And she's still here. And that makes all the difference.
So the main purpose of the Hope Squad is to reduce those self-destructive behaviors and youth suicide by training. We train them in all types of different things like communication, recognizing those warning signs, how to react, how to respond, building and then creating change in our schools. And we work on creating a better climate at the school that's hopefully inviting, and that's the whole purpose of Hope Week that we run, is to create a better, more unified climate at the school where we care about you. And then also that bleeds out into the communities where we do some community things too, to hopefully build that connection between the two. It promotes a partnership with that local mental health agency, connectedness. It's very focused as well on anti-bullying. We do have elementary schools that run Hope Squads as well. They don't focus as much on the suicide prevention as they do the bullying and making sure that we are, cutting out on bullying. We teach those kids how to recognize a bully, what to do to stand up or say or even report bullying at the school. So that feeds into the school safety. And then also reducing the stigma of mental illness, that it's okay to get help. And then also increasing those help-seeking behaviors so that we can get help to those students who really need the help. The Hope Squad members, and you're going to hear from some in here in just a minute, is organized. They do these school-wide activities. They can also do individual. It just really depends on the school. They run them all individually. They learn about mental health, self-care, boundaries, reporting, reducing the stigma again, and increasing those help-seeking behaviors. One more quick video.
So one day I went on a walk, and when I got back from my walk, I went to my friend's house.
The biggest experience I've had recognizing warning signs actually happened with my little brother.
So I had a friend, and I probably wouldn't have noticed. I'm grateful this came after my Hope Squad training, but he didn't seem like he was acting normal. not regular. Like he was consistently being different than his normal behavior. You know, he would seem sometimes more quiet or withdrawn, and he wouldn't say anything when we were all out as friends. He'd just kind of, sit there and be, or sometimes he would be like really loud and boisterous. You know, he'd just be like, "What's going on with you, man?" But you could just kind of see him acting out or being withdrawn or saying things, that didn't seem right. Like, man, I don't want to be here. He wasn't talking about just like not being at school. He was talking about what if I just went away entirely? And I could tell something's up with him. It's a process, yeah. Because it's not like, oh, I'm sad today. He didn't all of a sudden wake up one day and be like, oh, I don't feel appreciated, or I don't feel seen, or I don't feel like my friends recognize that I'm even in the car with them. It'll take him a while before he's really feels confident and he feels appreciated and loved.
Day by day, he would come home from school more angry, more aggressive, saying things like, nobody loves me or everybody hates me. Then a couple minutes later, he'd be fine again. It was kind of a system. He'd have better days and he'd have worse days. And so I talked to my mom about it, and we talked about it a lot. Because we recognized those warning signs, we were able to talk to the Hope Squad counselor at the junior high school, pulled him in and talked to him a couple times and helped him out a little bit, and had other people look out for him. He's getting better. He has better days and he has worse days still, but hopefully saved him from a pretty rough year.
I noticed that she was listening to a really sad song over and over again, and she looked like she didn't really care about what she looked like. She looked like she just got up, and you could just tell from her appearance that she didn't care. I asked her about what she was feeling, and she told me she didn't want to tell me right then because she was scared that I would judge her and not want to be her friend anymore. And I later found out that she was gonna commit suicide that day. Towards the end of our talk at the park, she started to feel more comfortable, and I saw her as she got back to being her normal self. And even though maybe I hadn't thought to myself, oh, these are signs of suicide, but I recognized that she was sad and that she needed to be with someone and for someone to show her love. I'm glad that she's still with me today.
Okay, so here's kind of if you're looking at, well, what do they learn? Here's some of the curriculum, like elementary, you'll see some of the topics that they have. Middle school focuses, like I said, a lot more on suicide prevention, whereas the younger years, it's more resiliency, anti-bullying. And then high school, of course, is more suicide prevention, boundary, self-care, school-wide curriculum. We're actually going into colleges as well. There are several colleges, obviously, Weber and UVU and lots of different places that are now incorporating Hope Squad as well. And we're even taking it now into the workplace. We have a lot of workplaces that are starting to incorporate peer-to-peer help and prevention in the workforce, which is needed because there's a lot of pressure out there as well. There's a lot of research that we've been using. Every year we do pre and post tests. These are some of the places that we run our research through, and all of the curriculum runs through. It's very, very put all together and runs through all of the system. We have to make it's through psychologists and social workers. They all scan it. They've made it they've approved it. We have contact data. If there's anyone that is suicidal, we keep track of that. They report it. So we've got lots and lots of statistics and research that's happening. We have a partnership with Brigham Young and the Sharp survey study, the U of U, and the effectiveness. We have that one as well. There's also one in Cincinnati, Ohio. There's a big group of Hope Squad out in Ohio. We also have a partnership with them. And the advisors and the parents and the principals all do year-end surveys to look at the numbers and the effectiveness of the program. So we're consistently every year running how effective is the program in treating and helping students that need that help. This is just
in high schools across the country, a crisis.
Who here knows somebody personally who's contemplated suicide? Wow. Every single one of you.
Suicide now the second leading cause of death between the ages of 10 and 18.
It's the first
For
in
Utah
Utah.
Principal Dr. Greg Hudnall, it's more than statistics after he was called to identify the body of one of his 14-year-old students.
I literally threw up and sobbed. I made a vow that I would do everything that I could to help prevent suicide.
He founded Hope Squad, a way to help kids change how they talk about mental illness.
Those young people feel like they're the only one. That they're embarrassed, they're struggling.
The program gives students the tools to recognize those in need and get them help.
I don't think that most people understand that people do say that they're going to commit suicide most of the time before they do.
There are now more than 500 squads across 18 states and Canada. Another 100 will begin next year.
We're having this connection now, we're having this relationship now, and I care about you.
Students are chosen by their peers and specially trained, meeting regularly. This is Hope Squad's first year in Mason, Ohio, and the first year without a suicide since Abby Gadio started at the school 4 years ago.
Do you think Hope Squad has saved lives this year?
For sure. I think that because of Hope Squad, we get to those students early enough.
That stigma is breaking down. Students are willing to accept help.
Fifth grader Valerie Golvar recently spoke up when she saw a friend was cutting herself.
She told me about it and said, "Don't tell anyone." And my immediate reaction was to go straight to a Hope Squad advisor or an adult.
A move that may have made all the difference for that student and her peers.
The best part about Hope Squad is just knowing that you're able to
help and hope at a time they need it most. Kristen Dahlgren, NBC News, Mason, Ohio.
NBC News.
Hi.
I'm going to actually skip that so we have time for our students. But it said there it's the second leading cause. This is obviously, it was an older video. It's in Utah, it's the #1 cause of death for students ages 10 through 18, 17, but into 18. When you look at the lifespan, the teens are not the highest level. It's actually white Caucasian males that are around 45 to 55 is the highest level, and then your 85 plus is the next level. So if you look across the lifespan, they're lower, but as far as that group, it's the highest risk. So that's another reason why we want to make sure that we've got protocols out there to help these students and to help the youth to change. It's been something that I'm grateful to be a part of, grateful that we are able to incorporate this into schools. Like I said, we are in elementary schools. I work in Davis County, and we have over 64 elementary schools on board with Hope Squad. And then you go into the junior high and the high schools, and we've got every single junior high and high school on board there. And I know here at Weber, those numbers are growing as well, and they've got just almost as much as Davis does. So it's something that we have felt is making a wonderful positive impact on the school climate and the school environment. Okay, I want to turn the time over to our wonderful Hope Squad students. They're from New Ames, and they are going to give you some of their viewpoint of how it's been for them and what they've been able to do, and then you're welcome to ask any questions as we wrap up.
The bad. The 2023 Prevention Needs Assessment data indicate that overall, 27% of Utah students in grades 8, 10, and 12 reported experiencing serious mental illness. 18.9% reported seriously considering attempting suicide, and 7.3% attempted suicide. The good. According to the Ohio Hope Squad comparison study, Hope Squad schools have less suicide-related stigma than other schools. Hope Squad referrals are helping the most at-risk students, and those youth are getting the immediate and appropriate care that they need. The good and bad flood our daily lives, and the reality of it is, the implementation of Hope Squad is necessary to increase high school student survival rates. And in my experience, it works. When my life was filled with unbelonging and overwhelming loneliness, I never would have imagined to have peers and teachers to turn to, until New Ames and our Hope Squad. They gave me someone to smile at, people to look forward to seeing, and good influences to talk to. New Ames and our Hope Squad saved me.
As Hope Squad members, we are trained,
As Hope Squad members, we are trained every year to see risk factors and warning signs that help indicate a student or individual may be struggling with suicide. Risk factors are a condition that increase the likelihoods that a student may commit suicide. These can be medical, environmental, or even historical situations. Warning signs are the change of behavior in an individual. These can be extreme vocals or less extreme. They can be behavioral, like moving away from friends or family, or they can be mood, like sudden improvement or feeling lost of interest. Along with warning signs, we learn QPR. QPR stands for question, persuade, refer. Number 1, questions. Questions like, are you struggling to feel connections, or are you feeling suicidal, is a great way to understand where someone is. Questions like these allow us to understand how we can better help those around us. Persuade. Persuading a student who may be feeling suicidal is the next step. We can persuade them to see counselors, therapists, and family members that can help them find the help they need. Refer. Referring them to people in the future that can help continue the support they need is an important next step as they continue their life. The important lessons we learn as Hope Squad members, like QPR, risk factors, and warning signs, help us make the school a better place. Remember, a question can save a life. All that needs to be done is for someone to ask it.
As the life preservers of our student body, our main focus is to increase connections with our peers in our school. Each of our peers are so important to us, and we do everything that we can to uplift them, and to help them feel included in the school. Our favorite way to do this is through our events and activities. One of our favorite activities... Whoa. All right. One of our favorite activities is a Movie Monday. Every Monday, we have a little luncheon that's in our Hope Squad mentors classroom, and we have lunch together. We watch a movie, and we provide a snack, and we just socialize with everyone there, and we connect, and it's always so much fun. One of our favorite events that we host is called Dogs and Donuts, where we bring in therapy dogs, and we have the students hang out with these therapy dogs, and you can pet them. And overall, it just helps to release any stress of that day. And afterwards, we all share it. We all have donuts. And it's so fun for all of the students, and we always have such a big turnout. Another one of our favorite events is our Hope Squad Carnival. In our Hope Squad Carnival, we collaborate with a bunch of other clubs and New Ames to host a ton of fun games with lots of prizes and treats, and everyone always is so excited for that carnival when it comes around. We also like to include monthly themes with our activities, which we get these monthly themes from the National Hope Squad. Some of these themes include mindfulness, hopefulness, and self-care, and we like to include these themes in a lot of our activities. The activities we host truly build a strong connection and community within our student body. Through lessons we are taught, the people we help, and the activities we provide, Hope Squad brings the good into focus. Implementing Hope Squad has been proven successful in many ways, but is most importantly noticed in the lives of our students. Hope Squad helps provide a purpose beyond surviving. Thank you.
Aren't they great? I just love, everywhere I go and I meet Hope Squad students, they're just like top notch. They always are top notch students. So this pretty much concludes our presentation on Hope Squad. If you have any questions, any of us, I and the students are more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. And if we don't have any, that's okay. So he asked, given all the things that they have to deal with, is it burdensome sometimes to take on other people's issues?
As somebody who has struggled with mental health in the past, it's always so beneficial to have a peer understand. And when you're asking a peer to understand, you're not asking a peer to take on your burdens, you're asking for an ear. And that is our job. Our job is to listen. It takes hardly any muscular ability, it takes hardly any physical ability to listen to somebody. So when it comes down to it, although we may have our own struggles, it's so beneficial for everybody to hear people out. So if we listen, we also are heard. That's a great question. What happens if you guys start feeling maybe a little bit of a burden from listening and being a friend, and you're feeling like it's getting a little too much? What have you learned about that?
Well, one thing that we do often talk about in our squad, especially when we have our meetings, is how to handle if we feel like we have a lot on our own minds and like other people, which is why we communicate so much within our squad, and we communicate so much with our counselors and also our Hope Squad mentor. So we're never alone with whatever we need to feel like here with whatever we are feeling. And so we are also making sure that we prioritize how we are feeling on top of how other people are feeling, because you need to make sure that you are also in the right mindset and you are also taking care of yourself on top of making sure that you are also there for everybody else.
That was great. Okay, any other questions? Anything else we can answer? Got another one. Okay. What safety measures do we have to deal with grief when there is a suicide? Is that what I understood? Okay. So we partnership with those community agencies like we talked about to make sure that we are working hand in hand with the local community and any agencies. And we, depending on the area, but most school districts have most areas have a crisis team. So we bring the crisis team in and pair them with the school team and work with the school and the crisis team to provide immediate access to counselors, to referrals for help, making sure that everyone who needs to has somebody that they can talk to as far as meeting with a counselor. And then if they need to refer out, then those mental health agencies are already there and involved with the school and the crisis team so that they can refer out. And make sure that kids are covered. We have kids come down to the office and access counselors, and usually if there's something that has happened like a suicide, then they have access to all the resources and counselors that they need. And then usually that crisis team goes in and meets with the family to provide them resources as well. Great question. Okay. Yes.
On top of that, we also do promote lots of hotlines. For example, we do promote Safe UT or the hotline 988, which is on our shirts. It's on the back of our shirts right now. So that's another thing that we do always have in place.
Turn around. They're going to model. Yes, we're always referring in the school system with the Safe UT and the 988, which is that crisis line that has access to a therapist or counselor, crisis worker, 24/7. Yeah, that's always being promoted in the schools, especially with our Hope Squad. Thank you.